And we are live. Good afternoon. It's the 21st of May. It's Tuesday, and it's another SEMrush Live. Let me just mute myself. So don't forget, any questions, drop them in the chat box or use the hashtag SEMrush Live. Today we'll be talking about SEO keyword research and how to massively grow your business through that. Excuse me. It'd be great to know where you are watching from around the world. We've got Ross, who's based in London, and Tommy today, who's actually in Hawaii, and I think it's about 5:30 a.m, so quite early for him. I'll introduce myself. I'm Tristan Jarman. I'm co-founder of Purple Smudge, digital marketing agency based in Brighton. We've got Ross. I'll let you introduce yourself, Ross, so I won't mess anything up.
Thank you very much, Tristan. I'm jealous that you're in Brighton because we go down to Brighton twice a year and accidentally kind of make a little bit of a mess of the place. I never thought search nerds could party so hard until I came to meet you guys. So that's super fun. For everyone watching, my name is Ross Tavendale. I'm the managing director of Type A Media, and we're a search company based in London, and our mission is to help brands find the optimal route to finding more people to talk to online.
Excellent. And Tommy, over to you.
Yeah, and I also want to find myself at one of these Brighton SEO sloppy nerd parties as well one day. Yeah, my name's Tommy. I'm previously the SEO manager at PayPal and Airbnb, and I run a digital marketing training course called ClickMinded. And I'm excited to nerd out with you guys on keyword research today.
Awesome. I don't know whether you guys could just give us a little bit of information of kind of how you discussed with SEMrush and you came to creating this webinar today. If I throw that back over to you, Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, keyword research is actually how I first got into search engine optimization. Absolutely vital to everything we do at ClickMinded, but also stuff I did at the enterprise level as well, right? So like keyword research is, obviously we use it in search engine optimization, but there's a ton of kind of non-digital marketing, non-SEO reasons to do this, right? There's plenty of companies that use keyword research to sort of as a proxy for demand, right? And so we'll talk a little bit more about how to use this to not only implement your digital marketing strategy, but to also actually make really comprehensive business decisions as well. I've presented keyword research documents and keyword mapping strategy things to executives that had no idea what search engine optimization was, but you can use it, right, in kind of a quantitative way to make business decisions. So it should be fun.
Awesome, exciting stuff. Ross, what's your part to play in today's webinar?
I'm just the good looks and charm is apparently what I've been told. That's why I'm here. No, I'm joking. Well, my background is actually from a big box agency. I was originally working for one of the brands under the Publicis Group banner, dealing exclusively with blue chips. And one of the interesting things about agency life, especially in London, is we created something called Beer Friday, which if you talk to just normal folks, they're like, what is Beer Friday? Beer Friday is essentially at 3 p.m. every Friday, someone comes around with a physical beer trolley and they all start chilling out and relaxing. And, you know, when I was starting Type A Media, I thought Fridays are just a write-off. You know, there's no point in having a Friday, especially in agency land. So we started working 4-day work weeks, and that's what we're kind of known for in the agency space, doing these 4-day work weeks. And because of that, we need to be like heavily automated and look at everything that's repetitive or takes a little bit too long. We need to kind of get really into the nitty gritty of that and work out how we can automate it. So today I'm essentially here to show you how we use sheets and APIs. And even if you're not super technical, you will take something away. I'm going to be showing you the very practical end of how we do this as an agency.
Excellent. I'm genuinely looking forward to both your presentations. Ross, I know we've never really met in real life, but just sort of communicated over the internet in this new age of technology where we don't actually meet people, but we know people. You know, Ross, your weekly wisdoms on SEMrush are brilliant. It's an interesting process to see how much you can save time. And I think we were chatting earlier, just about how I think a lot of people sort of know what they want out of a piece of data or, you know, a subset of data, but it's that process or knowing the Excel, the Google Sheets wizardry to get yourself there. So really looking forward to see what both of you have to offer for the SEMrush viewers. Just before we get started, it's always a bit of fun to have a fun fact from everyone, just for a laugh. So Tommy, I quite like yours if you want to introduce your fun fact.
Yeah, so one time I left a nightclub in Thailand without my pants and without my shoes.
Excellent.
Oh, wow.
That sounds like we need to know more about that. But
further explanation needed, right?
Maybe off camera we'll find out a bit more.
So, okay, deal.
Tommy, I've definitely seen a movie that starts like that, then the soft jazz music happens and the lights go down, but maybe not. Let's keep this PG-13, huh?
Exactly. Ross, fun fact from you, please.
I don't know if it's a fun fact, but every video I've ever made, someone either says he looks like Tintin or he sounds like Mrs. Doubtfire. Those are the two recurring themes in my life, which I'll take. I don't mind the whole Mrs. Doubtfire thing. I just hope I don't look like her. That would be bad.
Excellent.
Hey, Tintin's really good look, man. That's that sharp. I trust it. I trust that Tintin look. It's a good
massive
look.
Forehead, terrible quiff, little dog under his arm. Yeah, the girls love it.
Awesome. Excellent. So looks like we're ready to get started with the presentation. So once you're ready, Tommy, pull your presentation up and then we'll hand it over to you.
Sure. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And some screen sharing now. Oh,
there we go.
Can you see my screen?
We can indeed.
Okay, cool. Okay, sweet. So we will get rolling here in just a moment. And thank you all so much for coming. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to take some of kind of the theoretical, more very top of the funnel and kind of strategy stuff, and then switch it over. And we'll talk more technical stuff later in the webinar. So thank you again so much for coming by and welcome. If you have any questions in the chat, you can either ask them now and we'll sort of answer them later, or you can hold them to the end. Either way is fine. I need you to get fired up for this one. If you're here and you're watching, I want you to get juiced like this little homegirl here in the baseball stadium. This is an investment of your time. Don't waste it. So if you have other things open, Messenger, Skype, you're kind of doing two things at once, you have us in one tab. Highly recommend you actually use this as an investment of your time, right? Don't waste this. Exit those other programs. You're much better off sort of concentrating on this. So either go all in on this or just leave now. That's usually the best way that we like to handle these webinars. So here's what to expect, right? Over the next hour or so, on my side, we're going to talk about how to find out what your ideal customers are searching for, and then make your website the very first place that they visit. And then when Ross presents, he's going to be doing an overview on workflows to get keyword research done as effectively as possible, so you can have those epic 4-day weeks, which I am very jealous of. And then there's going to be a bonus. Stay to the end. We're going to be dropping a number of keyword research worksheets, checklists for free into the chat. So stay for the whole thing if you can. Cool. Yeah, a little bit about me. I briefly mentioned I've been doing digital marketing for about 10 years. I used to manage SEO at PayPal and Airbnb, and now I run a digital marketing training platform called ClickMinded. And so we will jump in now. So I want to talk a little bit before we talk about keyword research and how to use it to increase traffic to your site and grow your business. I want to lay out this really comprehensive sort of framework. It's very simple, but it covers everything that you need before we get started on this keyword research phase. And Tristan and Ross, if you can't hear me or if I'm lagging or anything like that, let me know as I go through. So we've developed this framework. It's incredibly simple. It's a 5-step process that you can use to optimize your site or your business for any search engine that you could reasonably drive traffic from, right? And we're going to go through each of these steps in a minute. Searcher intent and the user demographic, the digital asset you'd use, the digital medium you'd use, optimization of those assets, and then the nudge to the next stage of the funnel. So we're going to go through all of these next. 2 quick important things to keep in mind before we jump fully into this 5-step search framework process, right? The first is that search isn't just Google on your desktop anymore. A lot of people say, oh, SEO is just Google on your desktop. It's actually not true, right? So there's a ton of ways, depends on your business, but these days there's a ton of ways to optimize different assets for different web applications, right? You could do YouTube, you could do Amazon, Pinterest or mobile search, Google Places, the App Store, Yelp, Quora, LinkedIn, eBay, local search, anything with a search engine, any modern web application with a search engine has this SEO problem, right? Airbnb, right? There's plenty of Airbnb hosts that have to do Airbnb SEO. So this is sort of a misconception with search engine optimization. It's just Google and it's just your desktop. That's incorrect, right? You can actually apply keyword research and search engine optimization tactics to a number of modern web applications that you can build a business on, right? And the second piece, a lot of advanced SEOs are going to know this, but just for anyone who might be more entry level to this, being on the first page isn't enough. And the reason why we do search engine optimization is because of this power law distribution in click-through rates. There's a number of different click-through rate charts out there, right? You can get them from a lot of different places. My favorite one is Advanced Web Rankings. They sort of publish this, I think it's monthly, their expectations based on however many keywords they're tracking of what essentially a #1 ranking is worth, what a #2 ranking is worth. It doesn't really matter what third-party data you use to determine your click-through rate chart, but the point is they all generally look the same, and they follow, again, what I mentioned before is called a power law distribution, right? The spoils go to the winner, the rich get richer, right? The vast majority of clicks are going to the top 5 results. And you really start to see the gains in your search engine optimization after you're doing keyword research when you move your document up to the top 5, right? So this is why we do search engine optimization. Sometimes unfortunately, there's a handful of less savory and shady people in our industry. And a lot of the times they'll take on a new client and they'll say, hey, we have you on page 2 for 100 keywords. Right? But the reality here is that you're not going to see the majority of your wins until you get into that top 5 results. So this is kind of why we do this. You start to see the biggest impact on your business when you move into the top 5. If you're not in the top 5, you are effectively invisible, right? So just keep those two things in mind as we go through this whole process. Cool. So the search framework, searcher intent and user demographic. The first thing we're going to ask is who is the user? What are they searching for? And why are they searching for it? Next is the digital asset. What type of content we're going to give that user? The digital medium, where is it going to live? The optimization, and then the nudge. So let's just dive into each one of these next. So searcher intent and user demographic, right? So this is the first thing we're going to do before we do our keyword research. Who is the user? What is the user searching for? And what stage of the funnel are they in? The example we're going to use here is my little sister. She just got married last year. This is her clown husband. I'm just kidding. It's my brother-in-law. And they got married. But before they got married, my sister was planning her bachelorette party. So we're going to use them as an example. Let's say we're a travel agency. We're focusing on a number of different travel packages, and we want to create the user demographic for the type of person that we're targeting, right? Basically, who is our customer and what are they Googling is the way to think about this, right? So here's my sister. She's in her late 20s. She just got engaged, and she's planning her bachelorette party. We're now going to try and identify the searcher intent and where in the funnel she is, right? So here's a kind of an example of what some of her keyword search history might be. And you can sort of break this down based on where in the funnel it is. So she goes to google.com and first she types bachelorette party, right? And then maybe bachelorette party ideas, right? You can do this in Semrush. The bachelorette party destinations, right? She's getting a little bit closer, like she kind of knows what she wants. And as you can see, as she gets closer and closer to checking out, the search volume drops, right? But that traffic is effectively worth more in general, right? This is going to be very dependent on your own business. It's going to really depend on what you do and who your customer avatar is. But the point here is you want to define these things first before you even get started. These are kind of prerequisites before even getting started. Cool. So that's searcher intent and the user demographic. So again, we are a travel agency and we are targeting a woman in her late 20s that was recently engaged and is planning her bachelorette party. So next is the digital asset and the digital medium. Okay, we know who we're targeting. How are we going to capture them? What type of content are we going to give this user and which platform will that asset live on? So, your digital asset, it can be a number of different things. Like I said before, SEO is not just Google on your desktop anymore, right? It can be a blog post. It might be a page on your site, that's fine, but it also might be a blog post or a forum response. It might be a social media post, a video, digital tool, image review, webinar, or product demo, or trial. It could be a number of different things. In this particular case, our asset is going to be a video. So we're going to target that user with a video. And then the next is the digital medium. Again, for most people, most businesses, it might just be a page on your site, a blog post on your site, or a URL on your site. But the point here is that it doesn't have to be, right? So maybe it's your website, but maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's Google Places, Yelp, Amazon, Quora, Pinterest, or the App Store. The medium you choose is up to you. It depends on your business. In this particular case, we're going to use YouTube, right? And so those are the first 3 steps. So we know our user and what she's searching for. She's a woman in her late 20s and she's recently engaged. She's planning her bachelorette party. The asset and the medium we're going to use to snag her is going to be a video asset, and it's going to live on YouTube. The next step of this is optimization. Is the document as relevant as possible for users, right? So, every single platform is obviously going to have a massive number of things to do. We're not going to cover all these things, of course. Today, we don't have the time, right? But the way you would optimize a page for Google is different from how you would optimize it for YouTube. It's different for how you would optimize it for Pinterest. But the basic idea we're going to ask ourselves is, have you maximized traffic? What would it take to maximize, and is it worth the effort, right? With Google and search engine optimization, right? Do you have the primary keyword in your title? Is it mentioned throughout the copy? Do you have a good number of internal links to the page? Are you using maybe latent semantic indexing keywords? Obviously, a ton of different things you need to be doing there. With YouTube, maybe it's, is the keyword in your title again? Is the keyword in your description? How many likes and fully 100% completed views do you have? How many subscribers do you have? With Pinterest, it might be how many pins you have. Broadly, just how much popularity do you have to this document? Again, we're not going to cover all of this now for each individual platform, but the fourth piece, once you've selected your searcher intent, your digital asset, and your digital medium, is optimizing that document, right? And then, in this particular example, right, we might be adding the keyword to the title, making sure subscribers are up, making sure the views are up, et cetera, et cetera. Last and most importantly is the nudge. What is the next action we want the user to take, right? So what is the next thing that we want them to do? There's a lot of people make this mistake. They sort of haphazardly start creating a bunch of content, and they don't know what they want the user to do next. So make sure that's very clear when you have that in mind. So if it's the top of funnel, maybe it's view more content or view another video, right? If it's middle funnel, maybe it's, hey, enter your email or enter your phone number, follow us on social, something like that. Or if it's towards the bottom of the funnel, maybe it's buy a low dollar product or sign up today. You always want to make sure there's a very clear next step with everything you do when you're creating this content, right? So in this particular YouTube case, okay, hey, hope you like that video. Click here to lock in a 20% discount on our bachelorette party group packages, something like that. So that's just kind of a high-level overview of how the funnel works with keyword research. I wanted to sort of lay that out there. If you're an absolute pro, this is probably fairly entry-level for you, but just want to get everyone on the same page before we get rolling, right? So one quick thing before we talk more about the sales funnel, as a reminder, you want to treat this like a regular human relationship. My favorite example of this, I went to a party a few years ago, and I met someone who was an insurance salesman. And it was the worst experience I've ever had in my life. Have you ever met an insurance salesman at a party? They're awful. They're so terrible. And the reason why is because you walk in and they say, hey, how are you? So talk to me about your life. What kind of policy can we get you into today? Like, talk to me about your finances. And it's like, dude, I'm just drinking a beer. Leave me alone, right? Internet marketers do the same thing, right? They treat their sales funnel like an insurance salesman at a party, and you're much better off treating it like a regular human relationship, right? That means when you meet someone new, instead of driving all that traffic right to your checkout page, it's more like, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you. Tell me about yourself. What do you like and not like? Hey, this was a lot of fun. Can I get your phone number? Right? Can I reasonable way to contact you in the future, and sort of, hey, do you want to go out sometime now that we've known each other for a little bit, right? So you want to treat your sales funnel like a regular human relationship and not like an insurance salesman at a party pushing people right to your checkout page right away. So let's go through this a little bit now here. As the top of funnel, we can do a couple different examples. So the first will be a travel site that wants to focus on family travelers, right? Family vacation ideas, you can use SEMrush to find this data, 9,900 queries a month in this example. And we can use that 5-step process we just talked about all the way down. So the search intent here is travel planning, and that's top of funnel. The digital asset and the digital medium might be a blog post on your site. We would fully optimize that page, and then the nudge might be maybe an opt-in for a family-friendly travel checklist, right? So here we go. A user comes to Google, they type family vacation ideas, photos, travels, ranking #1, ton of value on the whole page, value, 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 and then at the very bottom, hey, enter your email for a free family travel checklist. Click to continue, something like that. So moving that user from top of funnel to middle funnel. Now let's go middle funnel. How about an e-commerce site that sells skinny ties to hipsters, right? So we have a skinny tie wardrobe tips. Search for 1,900 times a month, right? And what would we do for that? Okay, we'll go through that 5-step process again. Searcher intent might be wardrobe tips. That's middle of funnel. The digital asset we could use is a video, and that could live on YouTube this time. We would fully optimize it. And the nudge to move from middle funnel to bottom funnel might be an annotation on the video that links to a blog post with the top 20 skinny ties of 2019 and a promo code, something like that. Right, so here we go. GQ, get the skinny on the skinny tie. 1-minute overview of their favorite skinny ties, and then some type of annotation or link to take them to a product page to buy it, going middle to bottom. Then we'll go bottom of the funnel. So how about an Italian restaurant with customers that check reviews online before they visit in person? So Tony's Pizza, the popular pizza shop in San Francisco, searched for 500 times a month. And we can take a look at that again at that 5-step process to do this. So this is a branded intent, right? Bottom of the funnel. The digital asset we might use here might be a review. That medium it would live on would be Yelp. We would fully optimize it. And the nudge might be a Yelp coupon to come into the restaurant or book a table now. So there it is, Tony's Pizza. Users heard about it before. They're looking at reviews right before they check out. They see all these reviews and then some type of nudge on the page. Hey, by the way, book with Open Table now, get 10% off, something like that. So you can start to see how we use this 5-step process in each stage of the funnel for different businesses as well, right? So searcher intended demographic, the digital asset, the digital medium, optimizing the document, and then nudging them to the next phase. So that's the framework. Now let's dig into the nerd stuff. So we just have a couple of resources for you all that you can use to do this on your own. Ross is going to take you through a bunch of sort of the way he does it at his agency, but we have a couple of things for you as well. So I'm just going to swap over. I'm going to show you these on my screen, but we're also actually going to give you all of these documents as well. And so can you just go ahead and let us know? We're going to drop the first link into the chat now. Just let us know that you've received it once you've gotten it. So the first is our keyword research template. This is the way that we like to do our keyword research, and I'll just quickly go through how some of this works. There's a lot of different ways to do this. Ross has a really great way to automate it as well that he'll be showing you. Here's just one of the ways we like to do it as well, just so you have it for your reference. The link we're going to be dropping in is actually a direct link to copy the sheet in Google Drive. So just go ahead and make a copy if you'd like. Basic idea here is, let's say we were doing this for a client or for ourselves. We would list all the possible keywords that we're doing research with SEMrush and list them out here along with the monthly volume. In this particular case, I'm doing, let's say, a website on how to make a cake, right? Cake recipes and things like that. And I would list all of that out here. Then I would list out a click-through rate chart, right? So I like Advanced Web Rankings and their click-through rate chart, and sort of list out what the value of a #1, a #2, or #3 ranking is. And then I could start to lay out my my document and say, okay, cake recipes, right? We have a number of keywords related to cake recipes. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so everyone can see cake recipes, right? Search for 49,000 times a month, 12,000 times a month, and 6,000 times a month. And this might be a page on my site that I would create called Cake Recipes. And I would create that based on keyword research I had done, right? Here's another one for dessert recipes, right? Search for 40,000 times a month. And another one for chocolate cake recipes. Search for 49,000 times a month. And there's a number of things you can do here once you kind of put all this data in the same place, right? So in this example, let's say we were going to create a page on how to bake a cake, right? The URL might be /how to bake a cake. We have a number of different keywords here that are all sort of the same type of intent. As a lot of intermediate and advanced SEOs know, one URL you create can rank for a number of different keywords, sometimes hundreds of different keywords, right? And so this particular URL, we might be trying to rank for all of these keywords, right? How to make a cake, how to make a cake from scratch, how to bake a cake. We can add them all up here, right? So we're just adding them all up. And then we can apply a click-through rate percentage to these, right? So in this particular case, I'm using this data from up here, right? The position it's in and the click-through rate percentage it's here, E6, right? So this is assuming, okay, let's say we're ranking number 2 for all of these keywords. This is saying then, okay, we get 15% of all clicks. If we were ranking number 2, that means we'd be driving 5,000 visits a month just to this page. And you can start to play with these numbers. Okay, if we're getting 5,000 visits a month to this page, let's say we had an opt-in rate for our email list of 9%, we'd be getting 454 leads a month. You can change these numbers as you see fit. If our opt-in rate is 5%, you can drop that down, right? And that'll change those numbers. If your opt-in rate is 15%, you can move that up, and that'll change those numbers. And same with your business. You can take these same numbers and modify them a bit. So if your product is $497 and your conversion rate is 3%, right? You could be driving $11,000 worth of revenue to that page. So it's going to really depend on your business. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but we just wanted to give you this sheet so you can have it as a takeaway and use that 5-step framework we just talked about. We have a couple of other checklists for you as well. We're going to drop in. We have 3 more, and then I will hand it over to Ross. I'm just going to quickly go through these. So these are SOPs. SOPs stand for Standard Operating Procedure. It's just a fancy way to say a really comprehensive checklist. Right? We have a number of digital marketing SOPs on our site. The first one is on-page optimization. So once you've done all your keyword research, you can optimize all your content with these SOPs. This one takes about 10 to 20 minutes to do, right? The goal of this SOP, optimizing each page and blog post on your site. What's the ideal outcome? Every page and blog post on your site is properly optimized. Any of the prerequisites you need, why it's important, where it's done, and when this is done, and who does this, right? So your SEO specialist, your VA, whoever. This is a big one. This is a 15-page document. All you need to do is kind of go through each of the steps and just kind of click the check boxes as you go, right? We provide all these materials for you, so you can go through the little GIFs to show you exactly how we like to do it. So this is our on-page optimization SOP. We dropped it in the chat. If you got a copy of it, just go ahead and enter into the chat and let us know that you got it. This is our on-page optimization SOP. You can have that for free. Next, we have 2 more SOPs for you. The first is, keyword research and mapping. This is kind of what we just talked about. Again, how long it takes to do is listed up here. The goal of this SOP, the ideal outcome, any prerequisites you need, why it's important, where it's done, when this is done, and who does it. This is, again, a big one, 18 pages. So go ahead and make a copy of this, and you can just sort of follow along the steps. This is the way we like to do keyword research at ClickMinus. So you can go ahead and take this. And by the way, all of our stuff, we have it branded with our names, but we are totally cool with you taking it. So go and take our logo, delete it, put your logo on it, take all the credit for it with your clients or your boss. That's totally fine. No problem at all. Keyword research and mapping SOP. And finally, last one, and then I'll hand it over to Ross, is our page level SEO audit. Same thing, SOP, we're going to drop the link into the chat for you here. The goal, the ideal outcome, why it's important, where it's done, when it's done, and who does this. And again, this is a monstrous one, 19 pages of how to do a complete SEO audit. This one's usually more helpful for past content, right? So you have URLs or pages that are already live. Maybe you haven't optimized them in the past. You can go through and follow this checklist, sort of optimize everything as you go along. So if you got that in the chat, go ahead and let us know that you got it. And that is the overview of those freebies for you. I think that's it on my side. So Ross, if it's cool with you, I will hand it back over to you and swap over my screen.
Wowzer. Now, after that, Tommy, I'm not sure if I want to do this or if I want to just go take all that stuff you've just given us and just go and run it through our agency. That is comprehensive, sir.
Awesome.
How long did that take to make?
Yeah, it's we've been working on that one for a while. Sorry, the sun's just rising over here in Hawaii, so I'm moving over here a little bit. Yeah, we love these SOPs. We created this product for ourselves, and then it turns out our customers really wanted it, and so now we offer it. It makes consulting and agency life a lot easier. So happy to give a few of those away, and we'd love feedback on them.
Amazing.
Excellent. Usually we kind of break halfway to give a couple of questions, but I think time's moving on. So Ross, I think, should we just jump into yours and then we'll see how much time we've got for questions after?
Yeah, sure thing. So what I'm going to do, guys, for everyone who's following along on YouTube in the chat, I've just dropped a Google Doc in if you want to play along. Now, Tristan, your version there was, sorry, Tommy, your version there was very, very comprehensive with some absolutely fantastic theory and then the actual execution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the screen with you and tell me if you can see a big, ugly looking spreadsheet.
Yep, I can see it.
Fantastic. All right, guys. So ultimately what we want to do is get you to a place where we can essentially, from everything that Tommy's just been over, I want to get a big, ugly list of keywords like this. So we've actually taken all of SEMrush's keywords. We've taken the top 5,000 of them. I want to categorize them, or at least show you how to begin to categorize them, work out the intent of them as well, and then do something we call opportunity analysis. So of all the things that SEMrush.com actually rank for, here is the difficulty along here, and this is in reverse order. So if you're high and to the right, what I like to say is if you're Donald Trump smoking a big doobie, you're high and to the right. That's where we want to be in this particular one, high and to the right. You'll see that the highest search volume is up the top there and the lowest competition. So no surprise, the biggest keyword opportunity for SEMrush is writing about things around Google. Now, similarly, I want to also show the actual intent of these keywords and the potential revenue they could make, because typically, guys, and I would love you to chime in here, typically clients will come to you and say, you know, I want to rank for transactional terms, right? They just want to hit bottom of funnel. I think, Tommy, that was something that you picked up on, but just because they're bottom of funnel and they're actually making money from it, they might not actually, the opportunity might not be there in terms of the physical volume, because you tend to find the closer it is to a sale, the lower search volume it actually is. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to run through all this stuff and recreate this. So I'm going to be going live, and guys on the webinar, if you want to chime in with questions as I'm going through this, because I'm just going to be showing very nitty-gritty formula and things of that nature. So if you can stop me as people ask questions, that would be excellent.
Perfect.
All right. So first and foremost, gone are the days when, I'm going to call this keyword 2. Gone are the days when actually getting the data was the hard bit. The hard bit is now, once you've got the data in, deciding what to do with it. We use this lovely little plugin called Supermetrics using the Semrush API. Are we watching this, guys? I'm hoping it's going to work nicely on the webinar as we're doing this live. As quick as you like, that is the top 5,000 keywords that Semrush currently ranks for, with URL, position, search volume, the whole thing. Absolutely fantastic. But the thing is, if I was doing a bunch of keyword research, this is kind of all over the place, right? We're talking about Google Advanced and Disavow. Like, yes, there is data there, but I can't actually do anything with it. What I want to do is I start working out what my actual topics are. So Tristan, maybe you can chime in. What do you think Semrush should be ranking for off the top of your head? If you were running their business, what do you think they should be ranking for?
With a phrase for SEMrush, I think that should be #1 ideally.
So you want to put the brand in there?
Yeah.
All right, let's get the brand in there. Tommy, anything for you?
I think we've lost Tommy momentarily.
He's in Hawaii. He's probably cracking open a coconut and drinking a pina colada right now. All right, so Semrush, they're an SEO business. They have the audit tool. They talk about Google quite a lot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these examples from earlier so you can see them. Now that's all very well and good, putting all this stuff in here. But what I want to do is I want to take an aggregated view. So every single time they mention SEO in this big, ugly keyword dump, I want you to add it all up for me and tell me the total volume that's going on there so I can see total market size and positioning per keyword topic and per intent. Now, Tristan, I'm going to put this over to you. Have you ever used Query before?
I haven't, no. Similar to our conversations before, I need to get on using Supermetrics as well. So,
all right. Well, you're in for a little treat. If you'd like to watch me fail at using Query live in a webinar, here we go. Okay, guys. So what we're going to do is let's first and foremost. I don't know if any of you know this, but the secret to being good at SEO is to have really nice looking sheets that are all nicely organized and color coded. Of course, that's not the case, but I'm a bit anal, so let's do that. Okay. So we want to pull in the average difficulty for the term Semrush. So we're going to say equals query, and we then need to tell it what we want to query. So in this instance, I'm going to go over to that keyword pool and say, hey, go query that. Then I'm going to open it up and I'm going to say, can you please select, what do we want to see? We want to see column D. So we want to select the sum of D, which is the search volume. So we want you to add up the search volume. So the sum of D, but we only want you to do that where A contains, and then we want to put in a reference to our cell. So in order to do that, we need to do single, double, and then ampersand, and then back into opportunities. We're going to click Semrush, and we're going to close that out by doing the exact same thing. All right. So we said to it, sum up everything that says Semrush, where A contains the keyword. And then when it comes to actually labeling the thing, we want to label it just exactly what it is as Semrush. So we're going to label as sum D, and we're going to close that out. Super simple, right? Moment of truth. And it works. Hurrah. All right. So let's get the search volume over here and the difficulty over there. So that is how we use query, guys. And typically what we would do is we would go into this here because it's locked onto B6, and we'd use the $sign to lock the B but not lock the 6. So I can now drag this all the way down to here, and it should fill everything in. Now you can follow along on the sheet at home because I've sent you that out on the chat. Tristan, how are they doing over in the chat? Are they following along okay?
They are indeed. There's a few questions which we'll cover off later, but just asking what Supermetrics is, and I think some people are finding this possibly a bit complicated, but just for everyone watching, what you can do is take the sheet, as Ross said, and watch this again, follow through step by step. So I'll stop talking now.
Fantastic. So absolutely, guys. So one of the other things I'd like to show you how to do is how do you actually categorize these keywords? Because it'd be really useful if I could take all 5,000 of these and actually categorize them according to something top level, and also categorize them according to intent. So what I'm going to introduce you to here, again, it's in your sheet, so you don't need to be an Excel wizard to do it, is something called an if statement, which essentially says, if you find this, call it this. Really simple. And we've nested something in there, which is a search statement, which essentially says, look for the keyword, which is over here. Look for the keyword Google. And if you find it, I want you to label this as Google. Really nice and simple. Now, let me just explain how some of this stuff works. So in Tristan's SOPs, you're going to get a really great, in Tommy's SOPs, you're going to get a really great in-depth view of this. But let me break down how you can make this for yourself at home. So what we want to be doing here is, once we've added up all of the different intent types, so from conversational to informational to transactional. Conversational is that very top of funnel stuff like we were talking about earlier. Informational is like the hipster tie example, and transactional is people ready to buy. Once we take the total volume, we can look at how physically difficult it is. That's by taking a Semrush score for keyword difficulty. We can apply an average click-through rate. Again, you can change this as you need. The Semrush package, now we're API subscribers, so I'm not entirely sure how much the minimum package is. I believe it's around $99. And then you can start applying different conversion rates to it depending on the keyword type. So when we dig into our conversational terms, usually those are much lower conversion rate because they're top of funnel, and if they convert, great, but that's not really what they're designed for. The informational stuff, yeah, maybe people are asking, how to do a site audit. That might convert kind of nicely for them. And the transactional stuff is things like, deals for Semrush, cheap Semrush licenses, things like that. And we'd expect that to convert much, much higher. Now, once we've got that, what I really want to see here is I want to put these together in these graphs here, because when we actually plot the difficulty against how much revenue we could potentially make, we can start to see some really interesting things. And one of those things is, in the case of the Semrush business, actually chasing transactional terms, which you can see down here in the bottom left, would be a terrible idea. The reason being, it's incredibly competitive and they're not going to make a lot of money out of it because the volume of people looking for that and the rate at which they convert customers does not make it worthwhile. So whereas most customers of ours would think, oh no, we want to rank for, site audit tool and things like that. Oh, well, actually, according to the data, you really don't. You want to rank for these informational terms here because they're much more lucrative and they're considerably easier to rank for. All right. Now, if we can imagine taking your intent and your opportunity and putting them together, that's going to start getting really interesting. So this graph tells us that, yep, we can see that trying to rank for informational based terms is a good idea. But what informational terms? I want to combine the topics and the intent together, and I want to get keyword intelligence on each of them. How do we do that? Well, rather simply, what we're going to do here is create something called a data validation. So all we're doing is literally going up to your data, and then we're going to click on data validation here. And then we're going to select our original table, and we're going to turn that into a nice little drop-down list. So we literally just select all of these, and as if by magic, hit save, and it will create you a lovely little drop-down list. Now, you might be asking, why are we doing that? Well, the reason is, you remember query from before? Again, it's all in your sheet so you can follow along. What that's actually now doing is it's saying, remember that big, ugly keyword list that we had? This guy here. Well, now what it's doing is it's saying that go back to that big, ugly keyword list, and for the intent that is informational, so mid-funnel, show me all the keywords, I don't know, let's say about audits. And we can see here that actually trying to rank for informational audit terms, probably not a great idea because the revenue upside from that is only going to be about $400. So it's just not big enough to make any sense for them to target that. And of course, you can start looking at, well, is there any conversational terms around auditing? And we can see that actually we don't rank for any of them. So that's something we want to talk to our content team about, see if we want to start building out more information around it. And this is one of the ways that we can actually just start looking at our content in a much more structured way, in our keyword research in a more structured way. And when we're actually getting main stakeholder buy-in, we can say that, if you're being in a situation, guys, I know, Tristan, your agency side, you're being in a situation where you say, I think we should start ranking for these terms. Now, what you can do is you can say, this is why we want to rank for them, because this is the potential revenue upside, not only for the keyword type, but the purchase intent, depending on where the person is on the funnel.
Yeah, definitely. This is key information that, will helps win the argument or the conversation, doesn't it? So this is brilliant.
And there we go. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Appreciate I went super tech on everyone. I hope no one's sleeping. And there we are. What do you reckon?
Perfect. Well, I think you've blown some minds. We've had a few people say, as I've chatted with you before, Ross, my sort of Excel and Google Sheets knowledge, I think, I do pretty well with what my knowledge is. And then I chat with someone like you, and that makes me feel automatically like I know nothing. But I think that's just life, isn't it? You always think you know X amount, and there's always someone that will blow you away and know more. Just for everyone watching, don't forget everything that we've spoken about today, even this webinar, will all be shared after, so that if you've tuned in late or there's something you missed or you have to leave early, Don't worry, we'll cover it all, get it all sent off to you, and it'll all be live online, so not to worry. We do have a couple of questions that have come in, so let's just get jumping into those. Both of you really. Someone asked, how do you handle a product with many, many synonyms? I don't know if I said that correctly. My case is TV stand, TV console, media console, AV cabinet, etc. What are your thoughts, guys?
Ross, you want to take that? What do you think?
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, do you want like the most annoying SEO response ever?
Please.
Depends. That's the classic SEO response. It really depends. So I imagine this person sells TV stands and they want to know how they should look at how to build out pages, if it should be one big one or multiple ones, etc. Couple of different ways to do it. So using Tommy's SOPs, I'd look at how you can build that stuff in to understand the intent first and foremost. So is TV stand itself right at the top of funnel, or is it right at the bottom of funnel? Because that's really going to make me decide one way or another. So if it's bottom of funnel and it's a transactional page, I don't want loads of content on there. I want it snappy. I actually want to think more about conversion rate optimization than I do about SEO at this point. But if it's things like best TV stands or like TV stand to mount a Samsung 70-inch television, that will be its own thing. One of the great tools you can use for this, and we're on the platform, so I feel like I'm a shill for Semrush right now, but their on-page SEO checker is phenomenal. You essentially just get your URL and the keyword you've mapped it to, and what it will then go away and do is a TF-IDF, which is term frequency versus inverse document frequency lookup. It'll Google the term, and it'll pull the top 10 out and look at all the different keywords and all the different phrases that you should have on there. And they've actually got a plugin for WordPress and for Google Docs. So I would start there. Just they've done it for you.
So just to jump in, is that a nice little segue to your recent weekly wisdom there?
Yeah, nailed it. Yeah.
Perfect. Tommy, what are your thoughts?
What was that called, Ross? Real quick, TF-IDF?
TF-IDF, term frequency versus inverse document frequency.
Interesting. So essentially the number of times sorting the top 10 documents and then understanding how many times these synonyms are appearing in each one and then calculating the importance. Something like that.
It's like, it's definitely not used by Google. There's a thing called Word2Vec, which is potentially something that they look at as well. But it's a nice, easy way for you to get briefs out to your copywriters.
Interesting. That's cool. Yeah, so the way, it's a really good question. And when you first, especially if you're new to search engine optimization and you're just getting started in the game, it's incredibly overwhelming. And I know whoever asked this question, it looks like Alan, I know exactly what you're going through. You're like, okay, my client sells TVs. There's 10,000 possible like ways to optimize these different pages. How do I go about doing this? The first thing, and I mentioned this briefly when I was speaking, is a lot of people who are new to this forget that any one page can rank for dozens or hundreds of keywords. And I think the first step is looking at that whole universe. You mentioned TV stand, TV console, media console, AV cabinet, entertainment console, and actually trying to figure out what Google thinks is the same thing, right? So the really easy way to do this, the really simple way to do this is to Google it, right? And you start to see, okay, wait, what other keywords are appearing together? What is Google bolding? The suggested search for additional terms at the bottom is a really good sort of synonym validator as well. And what you want to do is you want to start to bucket things based on what it looks like Google is determining. Like what has Google decided is like a synonym relationship with another keyword and what is totally different, right? So like in Ross's example, right? TV stands, TV console, media console might all be the same thing, but TV stand for Samsung HD 64-inch would be different, right? So I think the bucketing of what does Google think is similar is really important. The other way to do this is, yeah, you do your whole entire universe of keywords using a keyword research tool like Semrush, but then you, when you're doing your analysis, who's ranking and how often are those documents continuing to appear, right? So if you Google TV stand, TV console, media console, and it's the same 1, 2, 3 results every single time, those are probably right? Those are probably sort of similar relationships. So keep in mind what Google's bolding in the meta descriptions, what they're suggesting in the search down at the bottom, and then whether or not the SERPs change a lot when you do each search, right? If the SERPs are changing entirely between TV stand and TV console, it's different intent, right? If they're kind of saying the same and like 2's moving to 3 and 3's moving to 2 and it's roughly the same, it's probably similar intent. That's sort of the first step, if you ask me.
Wicked, great, fantastic. Another question we've come in from Sherry is: I have a client with very technical terms for food ingredients for B2B. How would you approach this? And I guess that's interesting. You kind of have pharmaceutical companies out there, very niche names for products, or as in this case, ingredients. What are both your thoughts on sort of how to approach that, and especially from a B2B kind of perspective?
Do you want to kick that one off this time, Tommy? Because I feel like I took the lion's share last time.
Very technical terms for food ingredients. I'm not sure I understand the question. Sherry, if you want to re-ask it, or what do you guys?
Is it like, I think it's maybe like food colorings and things like that, or like, bicarbonate of soda and all that sort of thing. So, I mean, Sherry, the first thing I'd be doing there is don't really worry about the keyword research as much as you worry about the schema and the markup. So that they actually know what the page is physically about. So if you go to schema.org and put the product type in there, there should be a schema for what you're talking about.
Right.
With regards to really technical B2B stuff, you're going to find that there is literally no search volume for it. So we done keyword research for a blood plasmagen B2B technology provider. Not a ton of people looking for things that separate blood particles at scale.
Every day I search for that stuff.
Yeah, right, exactly. I have my morning coffee and I think, how can I separate blood platelets? So what you want to do in that instance is have your landing page for that, because when they do search it, you need it to be there. But think of secondary things around what the audience search for. So if they are scientists or food scientists or caterers, think about what their day-to-day problems are and design content around that. So back to Tommy's methodology, that would be top of funnel stuff. So if they're like technical food people, like scientists, go into like one of their science journals and look at the articles that people are writing about, and then start looking at, maybe run that through Semrush and see what keywords they rank for. So you're getting them in an informational term, and maybe you can do something like a lead capture to get them into your funnel and then slowly push that out. But I would take a side step into something bigger. If you're, think of the click-through rate model that Tommy went on about, like if you're, Tommy, what did you say position 1 was roughly? It's like
40% according to AWR. Yeah.
Great. So I mean, 40% of something that gets 100 searches a month, and then you're going to convert at 1%. You're just, it's not going to work, is it? So think a little broader would be my suggestion.
Excellent. Just taking a step back, because we've obviously been talking to a degree at quite a high level today, which is pretty awesome. But what if you do keyword research and there's no search volume for your product you're selling? So I guess that could come from a few angles of you've created a product, or, yeah. What are your thoughts? I always find this an interesting one to discuss with people.
Yeah, so I have strong opinions on this one. We get asked this often from our users, and I used to teach at a university as well, as like a digital marketing elective at a university, and I had this question a lot. And this is where I turn into a jerk, and when I get asked this question, and it becomes, keyword research becomes actually this very, it's effective, it's efficient, but it also can become this very brutal moment in time for your business because the data doesn't lie. Right. And so a lot of people do this. They say, I've got this new idea, it's Tinder for dogs, or it's like jet skis with flamingos on them, or some kind of crazy idea. And they do the search volume and they say, well, no one's looking for this. What should I do? Sometimes the answer is, this is a bad idea, right? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, this is the example I was, no one was Googling for Uber before Uber existed. No one was Googling for exactly what Airbnb was before Airbnb. Of course, there's like once in a generation ideas that behaviorally change people, right? But SEO is not that. SEO is much more boring and transactional in that, right? SEO is looking at the state of the world, understanding what they're searching for, and then answering their needs, right? Solving their problems. So the point, as keyword research can go in one of two ways. It can be absolutely devastating if you've invested a bunch in your business or created a new product, and then you go look at keyword research and you say, oh my God, nobody wants this. This isn't solving any problems. That can be absolutely devastating. But it can go in the other way as well, right? Turns out, hundreds of people, it can be hundreds of times more important than you thought, whatever your product is, right? So we highly recommend doing keyword research before starting a new business, before launching a product line, before determining the color of a new product you're launching, right? Because it gives you a really good proxy for demand. And so we get this question all the time. It's like, okay, I'm doing this new thing. There's no one searching for it, but there's like a related business. How should I go about doing this? Like, I don't want to be too discouraging, but the data doesn't lie. And so there's many times where you should look at the keyword research and honestly look in the mirror and say, like, should I actually go through with this? Is this solving anyone's problem?
Good.
What I would also say to that, if that's the case, guys, then for you, sir, then SEO is firmly dead. Do brand marketing, dude. Like, buy Facebook ads, buy magazine spots, do that. Do demand generation, and don't feel down about it too much. Like, if you, in the UK, if you Google the word tables, it gets 10,000 searches. If you Google the word IKEA tables, it gets 20,000 searches. The brand is bigger than the generic. So it takes longer to build brands, but here's a great example. The term inbound marketing, that didn't exist, a couple of years ago. HubSpot own that now. So you can become a category leader by doing that, but you need to invest in brand, and ranking for the generic is the last thing you want to care about.
Wicked. So I think we've probably got time for maybe one more question. We've got a question from Tapquid. For ecom, how does the schema for products help or have an impact on SERPs? Anyone want to take that?
That's a great question. So yeah, essentially there's two reasons why you're going to want to do this. So now Google are asking not only for you to mark up the schema, they've now got that inside of Search Console. That's one of the new reports you can see inside of Search Console. Everything they ask for is obviously for their own end. So they ask you to make your site faster, so it's cheaper to rip your content. Now they want it in structured data, so it's easier for them to understand the content they just stole from you. I'm a little down on Google, but they have a history. It helps with your click-through rate, ultimately. So if you've got schema around all of your products, it's going to show up in the SERPs itself, and it's going to help with click-through rate. One of the things I would look at if you're into entities and you want to really go deep dive, go over to wikidata.org or wikidata.com, I can't remember. Type in any person's name, scroll down and look at the identifiers. Those are all the databases inside of the knowledge graph that power the knowledge panel. So not only if you're not in those and you relate to a particular keyword set, regardless of traditional SEO stuff like links that you've got and all the rest of it, as far as we can see, there's a dampening effect. If you're not in these identifying databases, you're not trusted, so therefore you're not ranked. So that's a bit of an aside, but something to have a look at.
Wicked. Tommy, anything to add?
Yeah, exact same thing. Like this is always how it works. Google incentivizes some behavior for webmasters. The webmasters that adopt it, they get an early advantage. Everyone tries to chase them. Everyone suddenly does what Google wants. Google takes over that part of the internet and moves on, right? And like unfortunately, that's how it works. I agree. You if you're doing an e-commerce site, you generally want to mark up your product pages with as much schema as possible. Most content management systems do a lot of the work out of the box. Shopify can do this really well. There's WordPress plugins that do this really well, but you usually get click-through rate increases when Google uses it. You don't always know when Google will use certain schema, right? Stars, pricing, all these sort of things. Google seems to change their mind a lot on what's relevant and what's not. But in general, if you're an e-commerce site, mark up your page with as much schema as possible. You don't really know how Google will use it, but in general, if they do take it, you'll see a lift in click-through rate and rankings. Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. I think we probably need to wrap up now. I don't know where the last hour's gone. We've literally shot through. Apologies to anyone who posted a question and we weren't able to get to your question. I don't know if you guys just want to shout out your handles for anyone, your Twitter handles, sorry, for anyone who may have missed it in the chat or watching this afterwards. You can obviously ask these guys questions, ask me questions afterwards. Also, this webinar will be posted up afterwards. I think everyone will be notified who registered. Tommy's awesome links will be in there to the SOPs. Ross's spreadsheet will be in there, I believe, with that. If there's anything else you need, then just drop anyone a message. So yeah, any final words, guys, before we sign off?
Well, you know, my final word is always SEO is dead, but only if you make it. No, if you've got any questions, you can follow me at rtavs on Twitter, or hit me up at typemedia.net.
Yeah, and I'm on Twitter, I'm at Tommy Griffith, and you can find us at clickminded.com.
Excellent. So I've been your host, Tristan Jarman. I'm at Tristan Jarman on Twitter if you've got any questions. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Tommy, for joining us today. And thank you, SEMrush, for putting this all together for all of us to enjoy. I hope you have a great evening, morning, and day, wherever you are in the world. Thank you, guys, and goodbye.
Thank you, Tristan. It was fun.
See ya.